Hey guys, hello and welcome to Naveed for Speed. In today's video, I am going to be showing you this car right here. It's a pretty special car, the R35 GT-R Nismo. Now, you might be wondering why am I stood next to a 5-year-old car with essentially a 17-year-old design. And that's because earlier this year, Nissan put out a statement on their Japanese website to say that they are taking no more new orders for the R35 GT-R. Now, we already know the R35 GT-R has gone out of production for the UK a few years ago, but this marks the end of worldwide production for this car. So basically it's the end of the road for this car. And so in today's video, I wanted to revisit this car. I wanted to see exactly what it's all about. And I wanted to show you guys a little bit closer to the different features that you get and what it's like to live with the R35 GT-R. And of course, I have the Nismo here as well. So it's the ultimate version of the R35 that we got here in the UK. And it's a good excuse as any to have a go in the R35. So let's start with the exterior, and I want to show you some of the features of the R35 and in particular the Nismo. So we'll start at the front over here because you'll already notice this front bumper full of carbon fiber features. You got the GT-R logo, the Nismo logo in there as well, but you got this front carbon fiber splitter with the red pinstripe just to show that it's a Nismo version of the car. And you got loads of air intakes on the side as well, bits here that channel air through to cooling the brakes. I think it looks really cool. As you come towards the top over here, you've got this sculpted bonnet, and you can see over here you've got these NACA ducts or NACA ducts, which you'll see on the regular R35 GT-R as well. Those are to cool the engine bay, and it's a really efficient design to channel air into that engine compartment. And they just look really nice. They really capture the imagination when you see this car out on the road. And just this whole front area over here, you'll see how it just looks like the car is just sprawling out onto the road or whatever surface it's on. It's the dimensions wise, it's a large car. It's about 4.7 meters long, and it's about just under 1.9 meters wide, and that's without the wing mirrors included. So it really does have a presence on the road. It's quite low as well. Now, you've got a lighter bonnet in this Nismo version. You've got a carbon fiber roof as well, so it lowers the center of gravity and it makes the car lighter. The Nismo version, this is a 2020 Nismo version, which weighs in at around 1,700 kg, which is lighter than the standard vehicle. It also comes with a load of other features. Nissan have improved the transmission. They've improved the turbochargers as well. There's one less vane in the turbochargers, and each vane is slightly different shape as well. So it just makes that whole process a little bit more efficient. And it has larger brakes as well. Now, if we move over towards the side of the car, we'll get to those brakes because I'll show you these wheels here. So these are the Nismo design wheels as well, which have been updated for this 2020 version of the car. You can see this 9-spoke design, which is supposed to be lighter but just as strong, and it's sat on these 20-inch wheels, sat on these Dunlop tires, which are specifically designed for this car, which have a larger contact surface with the road. I believe it's 11% larger contact surface. So that's just adding that whole grip onto the road. And that's probably why the Nissan R35 GT-R has been in production for so long, all the way since 2007, 2008. And that's because over time, Nissan have constantly improved the formula. They've made little tweaks, and it's that whole continuous improvement theory, that Kaizen, that Japanese theory of Kaizen. They've just continuously improved it, and this is one of the biggest improvements that they made to the Nismo version of the car. You can also see these arch vents over here as well in carbon fiber. It's that inner 9-year-old inside you that sees stuff like this, and it just gets you excited. Let's move further towards the side of the car because you'll see this aero blade vent over here as well, which looks really nice. Again, kind of similar to what you'll see in other R35 GT-Rs, but I'm going to talk about this whole front wing area because when Nissan was designing this car, they didn't want it to look like any European car. So they wanted it to have some sort of Japanese design elements. And there's certain elements of this car that are inspired by Gundam, the Japanese robots. And that is this front wing area over here. And If you notice, this A-pillar is black over here, so it gives this whole sort of windscreen and side windows a sort of visor effect, and that's inspired by the Gundam robots as well. And then the roofline of the car as well, that's inspired by the Gundam robots as well. So I think overall it has those typical Japanese design elements in there, and I think it's just unique. Even today, even 17 years later, it still looks quite unique on the road. And today more so than ever, because we're seeing generic SUVs, all these electric cars. This is what excites people. I think it looks really cool. I forgot to mention the brakes. So if you come back down here, you'll see these Brembo brakes. They are 410 millimeters at the front and 390 millimeters at the back. So large carbon ceramic brakes over here, which really does have some good stopping power for this car. And you're gonna need it because this car's got 600 horsepower. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when I take it out on the road. Over here, you've got power folding wing mirrors as well, so they can fold in and out whenever you park. And there's loads more features which I'll show you inside this car. And this is a car from 2 decades ago, basically. It's got all these really cool features. Look at these. These are aluminium flush door handles which open like so, and it gives a sort of clean finish at the side of the car, so you can get this sort of shoulder line that comes all the way back to the rear haunches. And then you can see the power this car has back here. Again, it's wider back here. It does actually look and feel quite wide, so I'm really surprised when companies like Liberty Walk gave this car even wider body kit. It's already quite impressive itself. As we come towards the back here, I'll just show you this rear spoiler over here. Carbon fiber rear spoiler in this Nismo version. The later Nismo version, the 2024 version, which wasn't available in the UK, got a swan neck rear spoiler, but this is quite a large spoiler. And you can see these end plates over here, quite impressive end plates. As we come towards the back of the car, you'll see more carbon fiber at the bottom over here, the bottom bumper. And then you can see these iconic round headlights. Now, don't quote me on this, but those taillights are not entirely round, they're oval shape. But Nissan specifically wanted these headlights in the R35 because it's a nod to the previous Skyline GT-R vehicles that you'll see, R34s, R33s, R32s, Godzilla. You'll see those in all those cars as well. So I think it looks really cool. They're inspired by jet afterburners, which is why they're referred to sometimes as afterburners. And it just shows that this car has that sort of power in mind when it comes to the design of it. Let me show you the boot very quickly. Although if you're buying a car like this, you won't necessarily be worried so much about boot space, but I'll just show you over here. This is how much boot space you get. It's 315 litres of boot space back here, which is, for a car of this performance, is actually pretty good. You can get golf clubs in there. I don't play golf, but you can get golf clubs in there. You can get luggage in there. I've not really had a problem with anything that I've needed to put in here. So I think it's really cool. Let me show you the interior, because the interior sometimes has been criticized for being a bit dated, but it's just so surreal to be in there. Let's go. The interior actually, I think, isn't as bad as people say. Yes, it is an old design and it hasn't been updated that much when it comes to the earlier R35 Nissan GT-Rs. One of the biggest differences you will see from the earlier GT-Rs to now is the steering wheel. It's a slightly different design, but the older steering wheels, they still have buttons on them as well. It's finished in Alcantara. It's got stitched leather in there as well. And then you've got these flappy paddles on the back. I believe in the earlier versions of this car, those flappy paddles were mounted to the steering column, whereas now it's mounted to the steering wheel themselves. The rest of the car kind of has a similar theme. There's Alcantara, there's stitched leather, and there's carbon fiber. Those are the three main things that you'll see in this car. So let's talk about these seats, because in the Nismo version of the car, you get these Recaro seats which have this sort of suede and stitched leather in there as well, with the Nismo logo, and at the back it's got like this carbon fiber weave in there as well. They feel really good. Nissan designed these to sort of keep you, hold you tight at the certain points of your body, so at your shoulders and at your waist. And you really do feel that when you're out on the road. I'll tell you more about that when I take the car out there. You'll see in the center column over here, the center console, you'll see carbon fiber along here as well. This is where I probably think the car is more dated in terms of its design. But in front of you, you've got this multifunction screen, which I'll just turn the car on for a second. And it's always fun to do this. Oh yeah, there we go. Right, so you've got this multifunction screen over here, which first debuted in the R34 GT-R, and now you've got it in this R35 GT-R, which you've got your menus. You'll go to the main menus where you've got stuff like navigation and you've got your radio. But if you press the function button over here, then you can go through a load of different screens which give you loads of information, and you can change that using this knob over here, which you can just turn to change to different screens that you can see different information on there. So I'll just let that move over and you can see your pressure and temperatures, and you've even got stopwatch for lap times and stuff like this, which you can click using the steering wheel as well. But you can change, you can use this this knob over here, or you've got a little another one over here which you can scroll through, and you can use that, press the buttons, the shortcut buttons over here to control the infotainment screen over there. You've got dual zone climate in the car as well, which you can change using these buttons over here, and you can change temperatures and whatever else you need to over here. So yes, if you do want to stay cool, you can do that over there. And then just underneath them all, you've got these switches over here, which you can use to change the traction control, the suspension settings, and the transmission settings as well. So you can make the car, if you put into R mode, particularly with the traction control, it allows a little bit of, well, if you put into R mode, it allows a little bit of slip. If you turn it off, it's fully off, which I'm not necessarily wanting to do right now because I've got, 600 horsepower at the mercy of my right foot. But I do find that I have to put the suspension in comfort mode, and I'll tell you more about that when I take you out on the road. But ultimately, you'll see that the interior, whilst, yes, I'll just turn the car off for a second because it's quite loud. It idles quite loud, this car does. You'll see that the interior, even though it is a bit of a dated design, I think when it was designed, I think it was so ahead of its time that it is somewhat timeless. I do really quite like it, and it does feel really special to be sat inside it as well. So let's take this car out on the road, because that's everyone's favorite bit, isn't it? And I'll tell you what it feels like. So let me start by telling you what we have here. We have a V6 twin turbocharged engine producing 600 horsepower, a 6-speed dual clutch gearbox, and the Atessa ETS Pro all-wheel drive system. 0 to 62 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. And that just spells a recipe for something quite incredible, and that is exactly what we have here. But I'm gonna start by talking about how this car feels when it's a little bit slower around the city on urban roads. One thing that you will realize first and foremost is that there's noise. There's noise in the cabin when you're driving slowly. There's clunks and clicks and different mechanical noises. That's the gearbox and the four-wheel drive system just doing their thing underneath. And at times it might feel like something's gone wrong. But in reality, that's just how this car operates. And I suppose that's that whole robotic nature of this car. It's built to just be that machine. It was the supercar killer, this car, but it was offered at a lower price point. And I'll get onto the price later in this video. But that was exactly what this car's all about. But even though it has all this mechanical stuff going on, even though it has all of this, power, it has the grip, it has just the ability to send it around the corners, it's still quite involving. It's still a car that you have to sort of brace yourself, especially when you're coming out of a corner or on a slip road and you accelerate. You really have to prepare yourself, especially if you're going to use 100% of the throttle. And it's just a lovely experience, especially when the road gets a little bit quicker. The steering wheel is actually quite light. I thought it would be a bit heavier than this. And I want to talk about the ride comfort in this car, because I've been told that the standard GT-Rs have been quite uncomfortable, have been a little bit firm. And then this one is the Nismo version, so it's got the revised suspension, it's got stiffer suspension, it's got stiffer, it's got a reworked throttle response as well. Everything about this car is just built to just to attack a track. It's just always poised and ready to go. And so with that in mind, this particular car, even though it's slightly lighter, the suspension is still quite stiff. Now, I found over the last few days that I've been driving this car, one of the first things that I have to do when getting into this car is to put it into comfort. They put the suspension into comfort, because if I do not put the suspension into comfort, it can get very uncomfortable, and it just goes to show how bad the state of the roads are here in the UK. But when I do put the car into comfort, it does make a considerable amount of difference, and this car is a lot more enjoyable. Even if you are trying your best not to, you know, hit a curb or to just, you know, scuff part of the bodywork, it's, you know, it can be quite stressful at times because of how wide this car is. But ultimately, it can become an enjoyable drive when it gets a little bit faster. Now, talking about when it gets a little bit faster, if you are driving this car on the motorway, you are going to hear some sound, you're going to hear some noises, this car was designed so that you can, well, not in particular this car, but the R35 GT-R was designed so that you can have a conversation at high speeds with a passenger. And I'm finding in this particular version of the car, that can get quite difficult. And so it's a good thing I've got a mic for this right now. But yeah, you will find that when it gets faster, that talking about that ride comfort, talking about the suspension, I don't like changing lanes on the motorway in this car, because when you go over those cat's eyes, you can really feel it and you can hear it. And yeah, that just goes to show how stiff this car is. But otherwise, driving the car, operating the steering wheel, sat in these seats, it feels like that perfect driving experience. Everything about it, from the visibility out the front, from the way the steering wheel feels, to the way the seats hug you, and you get a sense that you're in bucket seats, but I'm not feeling like that discomfort from the suspension is coming through the seats to the back of the seats. These seats feel a little bit cushioned, and I think they're exactly what this car needed. Now let me tell you about the throttle response, because like I mentioned, this car is poised to go. Whenever you're stopped still at a set of traffic lights or in stop-start traffic, for example, every time you put your foot on the steering wheel, it almost hesitates for a second, and then it's bang, it just wants to go. And I feel that every single time. Now, I know this is one of the fastest accelerating cars in the lower speeds as you're just accelerating from a standstill, but every time it still surprises me. And whenever it comes to when you're just cruising along on the motorway at a constant speed and you want to just accelerate a little bit more, you've got the torque there that you need. You can out-accelerate pretty much everything I've come across in the last few days. I can out-accelerate a set of cars at a traffic light. I can out-accelerate cars on the motorway to get into another lane that I need to get into. It just makes everything so much easier, and the capability and the confidence that you have in this car. Now, talking about that confidence, I'm going to mention the grip, because this car has the Atessa ETS Pro all-wheel drive system. It's a rear bias drive system, and it can send power to the front wheels. But yeah, with the fact that this car's got those Dunlop tires, it's got that all-wheel drive system, and it's just, I've never ever struggled for grip in this car. And it has rained whilst I've driven this car, and that did put me slightly on edge, but I didn't need to worry, because I don't think I've got even close to the limit with this car. And so it just goes to show that it's just such a capable car, and it has so much more to offer than what we're able to extract out of this car, especially on the UK roads or on roads like this. I'm sure there are places where you will be able to extract something out of this car, but yeah, I don't think there's many places, because long distances, long straights, long roads feel so much shorter than this. Now, Let me talk about driving this car every day. Yes, you can drive this car every day. Would you want to? It might hurt your pocket with the fuel economy, and which is around 22 miles per gallon. And also, it might hurt your back if you spend too long on really bad roads. Aside from that, you get loads of attention in this car. Especially the children, it captures their imagination, and it just goes back to that whole thing of this car was designed to be like nothing that we saw in Europe before. So I think mission accomplished. When you're sat inside the car for so long, you don't remember how good this car looks from outside. And then when you get out of it, you always have to look back. It is still, to this day, 17 years later, it's still unique. It's still impressive in the way that it looks, and I think that's an amazing thing about it. Talking about the price of this car, I mean, I was reading recently that there were people who were buying R35 GT-Rs, you know, 1.5 decades ago for about £56,000, and obviously the car's been improved between then and now, and this is obviously the ultimate version of the car, the Nismo version that we got here in the UK, and this one costs, when new, £180,000, which is a lot of money for a car like this. But I think, having driven this, I know this is the Nismo version. If the ordinary version is anything like this, then it's gonna be then it would be a brilliant car. And I've not driven the ordinary version, but I feel like, I think, with my judgment as to what's been added to this car that the ordinary car doesn't have, I still think that car would be an incredible, an amazing car. Now, talking about that amazing car, I do have to address the fact that the car will be going out of production, or by now it probably already has. I don't know when production will end, but what I do know is that Nissan Japan have stopped all orders. So that just marks the end of this car. And I think, to pay tribute to that car, I mean, I hope that the R35 just starts to gain that more and more status. I mean, it's already such an incredible car, made famous by Fast and Furious, made famous by Gran Turismo, has a lot of synergy with PlayStation, and in fact, I think some people even used to nickname the car PlayStation. But I think as the sun sets on this car, I really hope that it's appreciated more, because there are artists whose art gets appreciated more after they die, and I hope it's the same with the art itself. And this thing is a piece of art. So I hope I've done a decent tribute to this car, and I hope we get to enjoy more and more GT-Rs, and I hope they're still around for a long, long time before they either get put away into garages and collections, or until there's no more left. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to hit subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you think about the GT-R. I know you probably have some stuff to say about the price of this car, but aside from that, let me know if you think this is a good car, or if you think it's a bad car for whatever reason. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you and take care.